Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Michael. I'm going to be your host for around about the next, well, somewhere between 20 minutes and 30 minutes. So one of our quick learn sessions. So we'll try and get through the content as quick as we can. Plenty of time for you to ask questions as we go. And if there are any outstanding questions, we can hang around for those at the end as well. Today we're looking at Sage 50 accounts, and specifically the quick learn is dedicated to customer receipts and supplier payments. So we'll be working through those areas. Now, some of you will be very experienced on this. Some of you will, maybe you've never touched that before. Whatever category you fall into, hopefully you'll be feeling a little bit more confident, even if it's just a little bit of reassurance that your understanding of the options that you've got available is actually correct. Now, just before we get stuck in, I'll just quickly run you through a little bit of housekeeping, just so you know what's going to be happening. Obviously, I will be sharing my screen in a few minutes' time, just for the purpose of the demo. So you'll see me working live in the software. I've got a couple of slides just to set us going, give us a little bit of structure, but it will be mainly demo-based today. During the session, your microphone will be muted if you've got one. You'll find you can't unmute yourself, so any questions that you might have for me today, you'll need to pop them into the questions panel. To do that, you just click the little speech bubble icon, the one containing the question mark, give it a click. You'll then have access to the box at the bottom where you can start typing any comments or questions. Remember to click send, otherwise we don't get them. And if you do want a copy of today's slides, not much information on them, but maybe some useful links here and there, then that is available to download during the session. As usual, we record the sessions. A link to the recording will be included on your follow-up email. There'll be two other links on that follow-up email as well. One will be to our webinar registration page, taking you to the page where you would have registered for this session, and also to our recordings page. So if there's any sessions you are interested in attending, we're currently running a couple of webinar digital badge series at the moment, one for data management and the other for report designer. In amongst that, we've got a number of quick learn sessions as well. So do get yourself registered if you're interested in any of those sessions. And again, it'll just pop an email out to you. They're all free to attend. If you can't make it, then the recording will be sent out to you afterwards. The second link will be to our recordings page. So that's where you'll find all links to all of our recordings. There's not one for every single session we run, but every single topic we've run, you should find there's a link on there. So do watch out for that. You get that around about an hour after we finish. Now, this is what I'm going to cover in today's webinar. So a brief introduction to customer receipts and supplier payments. We'll have a look at obviously some demonstrations. So we'll run through a number of demonstrations in the software. I'm just going to be using the demonstration data today. So if you are wanting to follow along while using your software, more than welcome. And once I've gone through the demonstration, I just want to mention some sort of considerations. So other things to think about, making it maybe a little bit easier to get the information into accounts in the first place. Maybe options where actually you don't need to get involved. Customers can just pay you online. That information downloads automatically for you. So that type of thing. So I'll cover that towards the end. And then obviously we'll mention a little bit about additional support. And if there are any outstanding questions, I will try and pick those up towards the end as well. Also joined today by Laura. Laura will be on hand in the background. So if you've got any questions, fire them across. We'll try our best to pick those up. So let's start with a quick introduction before we get stuck into the demo. So as you'll see when we do start the demo, it's a very quick process and simple process as well to record receipts and payments against your invoices. Now, if they're payments and receipts where there's no customer supplier involved, we've covered that one in a separate quick learn session. So do check out the recordings for that one. And we will be covering that, I think it's on Monday next week. We'll be recapping on that quick learn for payments and receipts. But today we're looking specifically at customer receipts and supplier payments. So payments against invoices. You can also use the same screens to enter payments on account. So for instance, if a customer pays you a deposit or maybe you pay a deposit to one of your suppliers, you can easily record that. Depending on what you enter, you're going to get a number of different transaction types. So from a customer, if it's a receipt directly against an invoice, it's going to show us an SR transaction, so sales receipt. If it's a deposit, so payment on account, you'll see that as an SA, a sales payment on account. Similarly for suppliers, PP is where your payment is allocated to an actual invoice, so purchase payment, and a PA where it's a deposit you've made, so a purchase payment on account. When you're posting supplier payments, you can also generate remittances, which you can email and print. Now, I'm not going into remittances in today's session, as there's a dedicated recording on that. Quite a lengthy topic in itself, that one. But again, once you're up and running with that process, nice and straightforward. So do check out the recordings if you're interested in learning more about the remittances side. For now, though, what we'll do is, as I say, this one is mainly demonstration based, so we'll switch across to my screen. I'm going to be working in version 32 today. So I'm just using the demonstration data, so if you were wanting to follow along, more than welcome. Now, to access I'm going to concentrate initially on the purchase payment side of things. So recording a supplier payment. Now, you can access that in one of two ways. One is to go into suppliers, and then on your toolbar at the top, you've got the supplier payment option. If it's not there, it's going to be for one of two reasons. Why either you access rights wise, you don't have access to that option, or it could be you've switched it off. So you've right clicked at some point, maybe even just accidentally, you've right clicked on your toolbar at the top, and for whatever reason, you've seen the option, if I can find it myself, that one there, and you've switched it off. So it's hidden the icon. You can use that to sort of declutter your toolbar as well. So just in case, if it's not there, just right click on your toolbar. You're looking for the payment option, click it, switch it back on. If it's there, it means you've got access to it. If it's still not there, it means it's access rights, and whoever logs in as manager would need to give you access to that if you need it. The other way to access the supplier payment window, and it's exactly the same option essentially, is to pop into bank accounts, and on your toolbar you will have the supplier payment option. And you'll have similar options for customer receipts, which can also be accessed within the customer's ledger. But let's start with a supplier payment. Just quickly run through what options you've got available. So when you first go into the supplier payment window, it'll list the bank account that you had highlighted. So in this case, it's 1200. If you need to make the payment from one of your other bank accounts that's listed, you can literally select it from the drop down. Now it will automatically use the one that's highlighted when you first go into bank accounts. The reason that one's selected is within settings and control accounts, you will have one set as what we term the default bank, so the third line down. So you could change it if you want to. It just gives you a list of bank accounts. So if you've got an old one, so let's say that's 1200 and it's not your main account anymore, you can come in here and you can choose a different one. So if I choose that one, so 1210 as an example, just okay that. When I go into bank accounts, it just means that that one's selected automatically. That's the only big advantage that one gives you. I'm just going to set that back. So settings, control accounts, and I'm going to set the default bank, so a third option, I'm going to set that back to 1200. So back into bank accounts, again, that's now highlighted, that one. So we'll pop into supplier payment. So that's the bank account that we've got selected. So it's got the account number, the name of the account, but also the balance that's on the account at the moment. Now that balance isn't date sensitive in any way. It's just takes into account all transactions that you've entered and recorded against that bank account. Doesn't matter whether they're reconciled or anything like that. It's just whatever the balance is on the bank accounts list. Next, we choose the supplier. So I'll just use the first one on the list. Obviously, if you know the account reference, we could start typing that in, but we'll just select it from the drop down. And when we do that, it basically lists anything that's outstanding. So again, we've got the name of the account and we'll have the balance that's currently outstanding on the account. So we got £1,644.39 in this case. We then go on to the payment details. So it's going to pick up today's date from your PC. Reference. Now by default, this would actually be blank. Now I've got mine set up for BACS payments in the demonstration data, so that's where it's picking that up from. So I'm just going to assume it's not there. So you pop a reference in there. Now, it could be anything. It is just a text-based field. This one should allow you up to 30 characters. So I'm just going to say online payment. I'll just abbreviate that. Similar for the extra reference, you've got a text-based field there. Might be something you pop in there, might be something that you don't use. And then finally, you've got the amount. Now, the amount, you can key that in if you want at this point. You don't have to. You will find that as you start completing the payment column, or if it's a customer receipt you're doing, as you start completing the receipt column, it will start adding up for you. So I'll just kind of leave it blank for the time being. Now, if you've got loads of transactions, you can start filtering them. So you can say, right, are they due? Do you just want to display them for a date range? And you could filter them that way if required. But by default, it should say all. The other thing to bear in mind is this option here, list invoice stroke credit by item line. Now what this does, and you've probably come across where transactions are grouped. So if you enter an invoice with, say, 3 items on it, you might see in some instances, you'll just see one line, but for the total invoice value. Now, when you come into this screen, there's a setting here, list invoice stroke credit by item line. Now, it looks at this setting within bank default. So when you go into settings, bank default, you can choose what you want the default for this to be. Do you want it ticked or not? Now, in this case, it is ticked. I've got the option to change that option at this point. I just take the tick out if I want. So with it ticked, you'll see against reference 18, I've got a number of item lines there. It's the same invoice, but it's got the individual item lines listed. So I can choose which of those items I want to pay off if required. If I'm not that bothered about that level of detail, what I might do is I might take the tick out. And what I see now is I see one line for invoice number 18, and I just see the total value, the total amount that's outstanding against that. So it's up to you which you choose. For some of you, you might have really lengthy invoices for your customers or suppliers. So you've got the same option in both areas. So if I switch it back on, you'll see the actual breakdown. You see there's quite a few for invoice 33 as well. So we've got quite a few invoice item lines. So rather than you going down saying, right, I want to pay that one, I want to pay that one, that one, that one, that one, and completing that, sometimes it's easier just to take the tick out and say, right, against invoice 33, I want to pay the full amount. So you're entering that value once. I'll leave it ticked for now. So we click into the payment column. We can see this first item, which is transaction 730. It's a PI. It's reference 17. You would generally always assume that's the invoice number. Generally what people would have recorded in that column. And then it shows you the outstanding amount. So in this case, £25.29. Now I've got a couple of options at this point. If I want to pay that one in full, I can type in the full amount. So 25.29. If I, rather than type it in, I can click into the field and we've got an option at the top, pay in full. It will do that for me. Obviously, I could just keep pressing F3 on the keyboard as well, and it would continue down the line paying off those items. Or if I wanted to, I could do a part payment. So I just enter the value that I want to pay off against that invoice. But in this case, I'm going to pay that one in full. So I'll just press F3 on the keyboard. It keys in the full payment amount. And at that point, I'm just going to click save. So I'll just click yes to that prompt. You might get that round about your year end as you go into your new financial year. You'll probably get that if you're in the demonstration data, like I am. But that's fine. Just lets me continue. Just a little prompt there about the date that I've used. Now, if I close out of that, pop into suppliers, pop into the activity. We can see on the activity, we've got the detail of that transaction that I've just entered. Let's just move that divide between the two. So we've got that transaction there. It's posted transaction 1236. It's a PP. It's got the date of the transaction. It's got that reference in there. It's got details of purchase payment, and it's got the amount in there. In the lower box, which generally would be displayed, if it's not displayed this lower box, just a case of toggling between hide detail, show detail. If it's not displayed, you'll see something like this. So just the one box if your transaction's listed. But if you do show detail, you'll see it's split into two. When it's split into two, if you do highlight a transaction at the top, it'll give you a little bit more detail in the bottom box, but it will also show you what it's matched against. So what we often refer to, and you might hear this, what it's allocated against. So what the value of this payment is being used to pay off. So in this case, it's this line here. So we can see it's picked up the payment date essentially. It says it's to reference 17. And it's got a few other details as well. And in the details, it'll say 2529 in this instance to PI 730. That 730, it refers to the transaction number of that purchase invoice. So nice and easy to record them. Recording a supplier payment, sorry, a customer receipt, I should say, will pretty much going to show you the same sort of information. So it's pretty much the same process. So if we just pop into customers, just so I can say I've shown you an example of that one, find an account that's got an outstanding balance. I'll do customer receipts. Again, I could access that from within the bank accounts window. I'll select the account again, like ABS Garages, and again, it will give me a list of what's outstanding. So same sort of bank account details in the top left. This time it's got customer details. And then again, you've got receipt details as well. So same 4 bits of information. Again, you can filter the list. And again, you've got that list invoice stroke credit by item line. Remember that setting? If you've got a preference, you'll find that in settings, bank defaults. What do you want that set to? Do you want that option ticked by default or not? And again, you would just complete that in pretty much the same way, completing the receipt column against any items that you want to pay. So again, once you've learned one option, you can apply that to the other. Right, so let's just go back to supplier payments though. So what I'm going to do this time is I'm going to make a payment, but I'll use the same supplier as well because I had loads outstanding there. And this time what I'll do is I'll take the tick out of that one and I'm just going to show this one, this invoice 18. I'm going to pay it in full. And then again, I'll just save it. Now, again, I could, if I wanted to, I could fill in a reference, an extra reference, but once I've done that, I just click save. If you go and check the supplier's account, so let's have a look at the activity. Again, you've got the details of the payment that was entered. And again, in that bottom box, we can see the breakdown. So what has that payment value, that £553.12, what is it being used to pay? So if a supplier does get back to you and they're querying something about a specific invoice, for instance, well, why haven't you paid that one? It might be that you've sent a payment, but actually they've just matched it against something else. So you can't follow that sort of back to front as well, as it were. So if I click onto that one, so invoice 18, we can see the reference there. So we can see on here, we've got the various item lines. And again, you've got the allocation information the other way on. So we can see the first line of that invoice, for instance, it was paid by purchase payment number 1237, and it repeats that for each of them in this instance. Let's just close out of that. Right, now then, if we go and do another payment, so again, I'll just choose supplier payment. I'll use that same supplier because there's still something outstanding on it. Make it shorter. Now what I'm going to do this time is I'm going to say I'm paying this one in full. So we can see currently there's £89.30 outstanding. So I'm going to pay that one in full, puts the value in for me. What I can do as well though, is I can say there's a bank charge. Now I'm going to say there's a bank charge involved of, let's say £5. Now when I do that, I'll get this message. You're probably likely to get this one if you use the bank charges option. So it's telling me before you can enter bank charges, you must set up your bank charges defaults for that bank account. Now to do that, just click yes to that prompt. It discards what I just entered there, takes me into the bank record, and I'm on the settings tab. Alternatively, I could just go into bank accounts, double click the record, and then again on settings, and this is where I can enter that information. So I choose the default charge account for bank charges. So it should be in the, I'll just leave it set as this account. Nominal code. So I'm going to choose bank charges, so 7901. Department, I'll just leave as 0. And if you're in the UK, bank charges, the class is being exempt of VAT, so T2 by default. So I'll just save those changes. We'll go back into the supplier payment option. Choose that supplier again. Again, I'll take the tick out of that box. So if you're always doing that one, remember settings. Actually, I'll just quickly show you, discard what we've done. So settings, bank defaults. So we've got the option here, list invoice stroke credit by item line. If I take the tick out of that one, just OK that one. Back into supplier payment. You'll see this time when we select that supplier, it's not ticked by default. I can still change it there and then if I want to, I can still tick it, but by default, it's not ticked at that point. Right, so I'm going to say I made a payment of £89.30. I'm going to say there's a £5 charge. You see it's pulled through the details this time. It's pulled through that bank charges account. And I'm just going to click save. That's it done. So when you enter a charge, don't think it's massively used that option, but when you enter an additional charge, you can see what's happened here is we've got the payment, £89.30, but we've got an additional transaction and an additional payment that we've been charged. So it might be a case you've entered, made a payment to like a foreign account, something like that, out of your base currency account, and there's charges involved, so that type of thing. So you can see it's posted an additional bank payment for me. So it's got that there. So again, that will be deducted in this case from the bank account value. You have a similar option for the customer side as well. Now, if you do make a deposit, or let's say your customer makes you a deposit, we'll do a purchase deposit in this instance. Maybe keep with the same theme. Again, just a case of you selecting which bank account you've paid that deposit from, into supplier payment, choose your supplier. Now, if you've got nothing outstanding, so let's say you made a purchase in advance of being invoiced, so when you select that, it would mean that nothing would be listed. And all you would do is you would complete this information at the top. So let's say I've paid £100 deposit. We'll just use today's date. I'll change that reference to deposit. Obviously, you might put something like an order number or invoice number in there, and it's entirely up to you what you put. Remember, it's a text-based field, that one. So pop in your reference. So deposit in my case, it's £100. I'm going to ignore the fact that I've got an outstanding balance there. And then all I would do is I would just click save. And when I click save, I get a message saying there's an unallocated payment balance of £100. Do you want to post this as a payment on account? And all I would do is I would click yes. So it would post that as, in this case, a PA, a purchase payment on account, to the supplier's activity. And again, that balance would have reduced the balance against that bank account by the value of that payment. Any questions so far? Quickly have a look at the activity, I should say. You can see that final transaction that we just entered there is a PA transaction. The final one I'm going to quickly mention, and we do have a quick learn coming up, I think it's in 2 weeks' time, about allocating and unallocating transactions. So that's a way of sort of tidying up your accounts. So it might be occasion you might have a deposit or you might have an outstanding credit which you want to allocate against a future invoice. So to do that, all we would do, we would bring up the supplier payment screen, bring up the account. So you can see I've got a PI, it's outstanding for 976.68, and we've got a payment on account, £100. Now, obviously, if we didn't have an invoice at that stage, it would list the PA first, and then when we enter the purchase invoice, so normally you would expect them to be the other order. Now, to allocate them together, to match them, to say, right, we want to allocate this £100 payment against this invoice. All we do is, you don't have to do it this way, but I always start with essentially the credit balance, the payment on account or the credit note. So we're going to pay that one in full. You can see the analysis total goes to minus 100, same at the top here. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to type in the same amount against the invoice. When I tab out of that, you'll see the analysis total is now 0, and also the amount at the top is 0. So I'm not actually paying anything or receiving anything if you're doing it against a customer. All I'm doing is I'm just matching things together, so I'm allocating them. And I'll save that. Now, if I call that account back up, what we've now got is we've got that reduced outstanding balance. So that payment on account has disappeared, and the outstanding balance against that particular invoice has now been reduced by the value of the payment we matched against it. So really quite straightforward to record transactions against your customers and suppliers with regard to the bank. Again, if you think of any questions, keep them coming. Pop them on there. We'll try our best to pick those up before we end the webinar today. Just bring us towards the end of the demos though. Now, a few things that I do want to mention. So I mentioned at the beginning, I was going to talk about considerations a little bit. So when it comes to customer receipts and supplier payment, there's some additional options that you might not have thought of, you might not have come across. So one is, make sure you include your bank details on your invoices. So sounds pretty obvious, that one, but are yours included? Do you send out a separate document with that? So pop them on there. Your customers can pay you online. Saves them contacting you, say, oh, can I pay you online? What's your bank details? You can just include them on your invoices every time you print that out. It'll include it. Sage invoice payments and also a payroll by Elevon. Very similar options, these two. And it's a way of getting paid online. So if you do email out your invoices, you can include that Pay Now button. And rather than your customers just go into their bank and pay you online, they just click the button and it would follow them through to make that payment to you online. In both instances, those transactions would download automatically into your accounts and allocate against the relevant invoice, meaning that you don't even need to enter that in the first place. Just does it for you, again, saving you time. Go cardless. Maybe you want to build up close relationships with your customers. You can actually get them to sign up to pay you by direct debit. Now, most people think of direct debit as where you're making those monthly payments, and it doesn't have to be like that. It's just a way of collecting payment, essentially. So if you've got those regular customers, you've got that fairly close-knit relationship, rather than you chasing them for payment, it could collect that money via direct debit, if they do agree to that one, on the relevant due date. Really good option if you've never looked at that one. There's invoice finance, maybe to consider as well. So if cash flow is always tight on the customer side, when you make an invoice, you could finance that invoice. So you can do that via Satago or Lloyds. You've got direct integration with that form within your software. So getting the money in advance of when that is actually paid by your customer, freeing up cash. Also, you've got the supplier payments option as well, what used to be known as SAS, salary and supplier payments option. You'll find more information about these options. If I just quickly share my screen for a second, if you were to go onto your main screen and go into well, actually, I haven't got it because I'm in the demonstration company, but you will normally have an apps and add-ons option up here at the top. If you go into that, it'll give you more options or more information about those relevant options, whether it's invoice payments, go cardless, invoice finance, or supplier payments. Supplier payments, it just means you can, when you enter that supplier payment, rather than maybe switching across to your online banking, then to make your payment to the supplier or entering a card payment online, that type of thing, it will do that for you. So there may be just additional options for you to think about, just to make the entering of customer receipts and supplier payments either almost like non-existent for yourself because they're done automatically, or that bit simpler, a bit more slicker, the way it pushes that through. Right, any final questions at all? I'll just pop back to the slides. It does bring us to the end of the demo. So if you've got any final questions, pop them in there. I'll stick around for a couple of minutes just to see if anything does come through. Remember, if you want a copy of today's slides, not much information on them, then they are available to download. One slide you may be interested in is this one. So these links will work for you. So if you want to find out more about the customer receipt window or recording supplier payments and allocating transactions or the remittance option, then those links are available for you. That information should be easy to find from our help center though, if you are interested. Remember, there's loads of webinars on the go at the moment. I think we've got about 8 or 9 this week. Really jam-packed week for webinars. We've got a couple of digital badge sessions on the go at the moment. So one for data management and the other for report design. And obviously we've got some quick learn sessions as well. If you are interested in getting signed up for those, watch out for your follow-up email. It'll include the links you need, or if you can't wait for that one, just head along to sage.co.uk/webinars. Right, promised you it would be a quick learn, so short webinar today. Many thanks for attending. I don't have any outstanding questions at the moment, but it does bring us to the end. If you do think of anything, obviously our help centre is available to you, but also our support team's on hand as well if you get stuck with anything. You don't have to struggle with anything. We're here to help. You've got the opportunity to complete the survey that'll pop up as you leave today's session. If you've got any thoughts, ideas, maybe topics you'd like to see covered going forward, do let us know. So do take that minute to complete that. I love reading your comments as well, just to see if we've hit the mark or not. So if you can do that, I really appreciate it. And remember that follow-up email will be with you in round about an hour's time. So do watch out for that one and get yourself registered for some of those upcoming sessions. Right, nothing outstanding, so we'll end the webinar at that point. Hopefully you've enjoyed that. It's just maybe confirmed what you knew was right, or maybe if you're new to it, you're feeling a little bit more confident with that. So many thanks, and hopefully I'll see you again on some webinars very soon. Many thanks.